Gamartsoba. Hello, I'm going to continue in English because I think it's going to be better for everyone, for you and for me. So let me try in English. So I'm really happy to be here. I think it is a great opportunity for us all to be here, listening to all the presentations that we have, sharing knowledge and the community of nice people with the same interests and so on. And also because I am in another place and in another side of the globe. And this is really nice for me. So thank you for bringing me here and for being here with us. I'm Spanish. Well, my name is Sergio Estella. I am Spanish. I am an amateur musician. I am a happy dad. I am a frustrated architect. I am a cook. Well, I love cooking for my family and friends, and sometimes they let me do it. But here I am today as a designer with background in arts and design. I worked for 2 years at the very beginning of my career as a graphic designer and interior designer. But for the last over 20 years, I spent my time and I split my time with interaction and data. I love creativity and data. And at some point of my career, I asked to myself, what can I do to do the thing that I know the best, to have an impact in life? And I decided that I wanted to create digital tools to make of the future of the next generation to come, to be at least the way it is for us, and also for us, because with all the situation that we are living now with climate change and so on, we all need. We need to pursue a huge change. Right now, with this situation, we have to change our behaviors a lot. I don't want to sound dramatic nor Protestant, but this situation requires action. And we have to do it. I'm a very positive person, and I know this change is difficult, but not impossible. So we have a very strong tool, which is data. Now we need to convince people that they have to change too, and we have to take this data and make it actionable, and make this change together. So to give you a bit context about what we do at Vizzuality, we create visual tools for people to make better decisions and doing it for the sake of the planet by using data science and science. So these decisions are backed by information that can help them make educated decisions, bridging the gap between science, policy, and citizen, and doing it for the sake of the planet. Our clients are very different. We work with people like multilateral banks, NGOs, governments, corporates, research institutions, and universities. So I'm going to share with you a few projects so you don't have to use your imagination to understand what I mean with all these words. This first one is about oceans. This is a project that we did for Oceana and Sky Truth a few years ago, and it's about oceans. Oceans are really important too. We need to acknowledge that because they are invisible for us. So we created this tool that for Oceana and Sky Truth to continue working on it with their own internal team. So 2 years ago, a Chinese ship with the outrageous amount of 200 tons was intercepted, 200 tons of endangered sharks was intercepted in the Galapagos Islands. You can imagine, a Chinese ship in the Galapagos Islands. I'll show you how this wasn't built. So we created this tool that allows you to trace boats sailing the oceans and detect patterns. Sometimes these boats switch off their GPS, therefore no one knows where they are. fishing in restricted areas, capturing little fish, human trafficking. No one knows what they do. All this information was there, but hadn't been put together, and now it is. So in the time that we worked for them, we were able to track 60,000 boats, over 5 years of information. We put 24 billion points on the map, and we were adding 22 million points every day. And some of the achievements of this tool, apart from the endangered sharks, 2 marine protected areas were created thanks to no green, no blue, no green movement, which were able to convince the Argentinian government that this is something, the place that they needed to protect. Also, the Indonesian and Peruvian government were put their fishing information in this platform, and hopefully more countries will do the same. But at least we have some countries leading this initiative. And the next project I'm going to be talking about, now that we reached the 8 billion human on the planet, I don't say billion, I say 8,000 million people on the Earth. So this project is about biodiversity. And did you know that 70% of the people living in rural areas with low resources depend completely about biodiversity? When one species disappears, unimaginable consequences are provoked. All the species need each other, and we are all connected. This is something I'm going to be repeating every now and then. Everything is connected. Some experts say that we need to reach the global, so the 50% of the surface of the planet, either Earth or oceans, might be protected. As of today, only 17% of the surface of our planet are protected areas. By 2030, we should double up this figure up to 33%. And by 2050, we should reach the 50%. This is a theory that we learned from the E.O. Wilson Foundation. They have a theory of change called the half Earth. And this is precisely what E.O. Wilson, the man that created this terminology about biodiversity. I guess you all know what biodiversity means, and it's because this guy started talking about it. So this is the foundation that defends this theory. The next project, TNC and Microsoft created this platform called MarkSun. MarkSun is the world's spatial conservation planning platform, and we created an intuitive user interface for an algorithm with more than 20 years of life. It helps simplify the creation of natural conservation projects and optimize economically all these issues that need to be addressed. And it helps the quickly growing community of conservation people around the world to translate data into action plans on the ground and preserve areas. This is, in summary, what it does. Users can upload their own data, set targets, and examine the trade-offs and gaps, and build scenarios and engage stakeholders in the central community, central management dashboards. So outputs are mapped. Data and decision provenance are retained, and users can access to the global community of MarkSun users and learn from their previous experiences and share this knowledge. Tools like MarkSun can help us reach these 50% of protected areas around the world. No one cares if we talk about north or south or east or west, whatever. It's about protecting areas in the planet that are very important for all of us and for our surveillance. This next platform I'm going to share with you is an amazing platform that was made possible by the Stockholm Environmental Institute and the Global Canopy Project. In Trace, we detect the supply chains from the countries of production to the countries of consumption and through the companies that export them and those that import them. Companies can now understand where they can invest responsibly and compare this with the vulnerabilities of the communities that produce these commodities and the companies who trade with them. Companies now can understand where to invest sustainably, thanks to trace. Policymakers can pass by laws, but not only taking into account the economic factors of the exports, but also the vulnerabilities of the communities that produce them and the environment and the society. Local authorities, NGOs, and communities are able to understand what's happening in their land and why. Media, journalists, and researchers can download the raw data to further study it and come up with new stories and insights. And for consumers to understand how this global supply chain world works. Trace is shepherding a revolution in supply chain transparency to immensely simplify how global trades work around the world, and also to make people understand and think about and re-envisage how this might work, because everything is connected, as I said before. The antipodes may be closer than we know, than we think, or at least the things that come from there. So for instance, with Trace, I learned that Brazilian beef from the Amazon was traveling and increased a lot through the pandemic to the US, up to 50%. So now it's like 60,000 tons of beef exported to the US from the Amazon, only because there were restrictions in the USA. So this is the tool one of the tools that can show you how to make this happen. And with all these things that we learned with Trace, all the ideas that inspired us, all the opportunities that we detected by working with partners, working for clients, and the situation of the supply chains right now. Last summer, we launched Landgriffon. Landgriffon is a software service that helps companies make sustainable decisions in their supply chains related with their agricultural production. So users can assess risks from the agricultural productions and detect their impacts and risks and think about possible futures. Using satellite data and modeling approaches, companies can take action now and answer questions such as which materials, business units, regions, or suppliers are the highest impacts for their highest suppliers for their impacts and risks. Also, they can detect how to reduce the impacts and risks. And they can track their progress against their objectives and see if this progress is sufficient to achieve their goals. So although Landgriffon is a commercial service that we created, the Landgriffon methodology and the software source code are open in order to foster collaboration, trust, and also continued innovation. Landgriffon measures these environmental impacts through 5 indicators: water use, land use, deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, and biodiversity loss. And the data comes from company sourcing data combined with other environmental indicators coming from the Copernicus Land Service, Global Forest Watch, or Aqueduct. Landgriffon performs impact calculations, and we provide tools for visual and quantitative analysis to export data, to forecast, to make forecasts and future scenarios, and simulate changes in procurement. So people can define future scenarios by a combination of growth rates and interventions. Growth rates set the rates of wheat material purchases and associated impacts across company or business units. Interventions simulate changes in sourcing. So we can assess things like which farmers With farmers, we can understand how to reduce the impacts and increase yield. If we need to change product recipes or fiber types and contents of clothes, for instance. And if we can buy sourcing materials from other sources that produces lower carbon emissions. Users can compare scenarios to historical data and company targets and evaluate trade-offs and gaps. We think that a drastic change is needed right now. And Lang-Griffon aims to help people, companies, leading companies, to make this change happen. But don't forget that we all need to change a lot of our behaviors right now. And the next project I'm going to be sharing, and the last one today, is about deforestation. It's a project that we've been working on for the last 8 years, more or less, with the World Resources Institute and many other partners. And it's a project about deforestation. And do you know why forests are that important? Forests, millions of people depend for their living, they depend on forests. They affect water quality, air quality, biodiversity, and climate change, and then are pressured for economical and financial factors. Are forests that important? Every minute, 50 forest hectares are lost. While this 3-day conference is happening, more than 2,000 square kilometers are going to be deforested, which means more or less 4 times the surface of Tbilisi. So now I think you understand a bit more what I mean. Forests are important for many things, and they are disappearing, right? So we created Global Forest Watch, and it's an application that we created that allows people to check out deforestation in near real time using satellite information. Since we started, these things have changed a lot. Now users, well, you can see green pixels show deforestation. Now users can see deforestation across time. They can also run their own analysis. They can upload their own data. They can subscribe to alerts. We created an application for people receiving these alerts to be able to go to the field and verify these alerts, because sometimes algorithms are wrong, and we are still more intelligent sometimes than algorithms. These are the country dashboards. So we have here information to see. Country dashboards, but not only country. It goes from countries, but also to jurisdictions. So you have 4 levels of granularity. And people can also check out their own data sets, their own save files, and they can have their own customized pieces of information about what's happening in their land. This example, this is a real example about what Lang-Griffon achieved, what Global Forest Watch achieved. So it helped reveal that a company called United Cacao broke promises that its massive cocoa plantation in Peru was going to be sustainably managed. Data showed irrefutable evidences that more than 2,000 hectares were deforested, thanks to the evidences got by Global Forest Watch. And here they are. The story was covered by Manga Bay and picked up by The Guardian, leading Peru's government to order United Cacao to halt its operations. Environmental organizations were able to scrutinize all this information thanks to the evidences from Global Forest Watch about their land practices, and this company is no longer operating. So you can check more of this success from Global Forest Watch in their platform, in their site. So the planet needs us. Other species all around also need us. Our own species needs us. We have the data. We have the technology. We can create platforms that make our lives a lot easier to try to solve all these issues that we need to accelerate. What are we waiting for? What are you going to do? It's time to define our future. It's time to act. The Mad Dog. Thank you very much.
Madlog Sergio, do you have any questions in the audience?
Hello, and thanks for this amazing and very touching and moving presentation. Myself, I'm a human rights activist, and I'm working on this data and AE and so on. And you mentioned in your presentation that there are three crossing circles: the science, the citizens, and businesses, I guess, correctly. But what we see today is that this gap between data, big data organizations or big data corporations, and gap between those and the regular people are getting bigger each day. And the regular people can't catch up with them, and they can't really understand where all these are going through. So my question would be, how can we define our future, which will be defined by the AE, definitely, in a sense of human nature and in a sense of respecting human nature as much as possible, because you brought some examples from worldwide that are unique and where we can learn a lot from those. But still, it's a single piece with a different and various field where this data is going to impact our future.
So, I think you're talking about the combination between science, policy, and citizens, and the impact of the citizens. Am I right? So, the projects that we do, we used to work more for public institutions. Now we are working more, so including governments, multilateral banks like the World Bank or IDB and so on, and research institutions. And now we are also working with corporates. And the thing was that at some point we decided we can try to reach final users, or we can try to reach people making decisions, decision makers. People that make one decision, and this decision will affect more people. And this is why we decided to, okay, instead of trying to go for the 8,000 million people in the planet and try to let them understand all the information, we decided to go for people that could make decisions that will affect us all. On the other side, as I was sharing before, with this example about Global Forest Watch, the one in Peru, in this case, it was some organizations, small organizations, the ones that detected that there was deforestation in their area, and they were the ones using this platform to be able to analyze it. But it takes time. This sort of information is not information that you can just see and understand. It's not like a spark line or whatever. So it's information that needs context, that needs a lot of observation and so on. So, I mean, we're trying to empower people to use data, but in our projects, this is the sort of final users that we have to reach. So not general public, but more, if not decision makers, people that can help other people make decisions. Other questions?
Okay, thank you, Sergio, very much.
Thank you.